I'll take it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
And it's a bad hair day too.
So she's like, scream for me, and then it's just that silence.
It was a good risk to take, and it was great.
Boom! I'm gonna try and give you a friend, and then I was like,
I wish you had like a granny mask.
That would be so cool, or like a ghost uniform.
And everybody was like totally freaked out.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jordan. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for joining me on this Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. And wow, it's been over a year since we've been dealing with the issues of the pandemic and the lockdown. And it's a beautiful sunny day here in Seattle, which is really nice. We're actually, I think, like in the low 50s. So spring is right around the corner, which always kind of makes me excited. And a few housekeeping things as always. Coming up, the next virtual interview as of right now, and the reason I say that is, as I was talking to my guest pre-show, there's always kind of things moving and coming and things coming into my inbox and text messages coming through. So something else could always happen in between this, but the next confirmed virtual interview is on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that is with the Bearing Kind, which is I guess you could call them a goth Shugazi new project from Dan from the Joy Thieves. And so we're going to be talking to he and his partner Scott about their brand new project. So if you're into the alternative goth Shugazi industrial type of scene, that's what's going to be happening on Sunday night. So that's really cool. And after that, I don't know. Also, as I was talking to my guests, I have a ton of things that I used to do before the pandemic, including reviewing the Seattle Opera. I've got the 26th annual Seattle Jewish Film Festival, which kicks off tomorrow. I've got films that just literally showed up in my mailbox the other day that are coming out next week. So I have a lot of things that I will be working on from a writing standpoint, not a virtual standpoint, but there's things that are in process. So I know I will be back doing more virtual interviews before I know it. And also, as always, if you're so inclined, and I always put my banner up after the fact, if you would like to make a tip or a donation, those are always appreciated through the PayPal link. That PayPal link is always inside the YouTube description underneath for those that aren't familiar. And then usually on the Facebook video underneath the description, you'll see the same link. If you just click on it, it takes you directly there. There's no hunting around trying to find anything. And any of those tips or donations goes right back into me being able to do this in April, in May, and any other kind of enhancements that I try to do to make these things better as I go along. So again, that's only if you're so inclined and if you're in the position to do so, but it's greatly appreciated. So I'll take that off. Okay, and it just kind of dawned on me that last month, the first interview I did was actually with this guest, which was on February 3rd, and here we are on March 3rd, so that's kind of a weird coincidence. And also, if you notice the new beginning, the white with the black ink blot that was going around, that used to be the Eclectic Arts intro, was actually the second intro. The music's still the same. That is my music from way back when, that electronic piece that's underneath it. So now I've tried to put some clips of interviews that I've done recently. So those are from January and February. And as I kind of feel like it, I will kind of edit those and put things together. But helps, I think, people know who I've been talking to and who they are. And it's another way to kind of get things out there to help promote all the wonderful guests that I've had. So I always forget to do this. So do this. Okay. My guest today is an up-and-coming musical force. Her new EP, Headspace, just dropped on Saturday, this past Saturday, the 27th, which also happened to be her birthday. Please welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Sydney Sherwood.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sydney, for joining me again. How are you?
Good, I'm doing good. It's so funny when you were saying that we did it February 3rd. I literally didn't even, it's so strange that it's the same day the next month. I didn't even realize that. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's like, well, kind of what I think what Aviv brought up during the symposium that you were a part of. It's like, Mark, how do you remember all this stuff? And like that date just popped in my head. Like, that's right. It was February 3rd because I distinctly remember you were the first interview that I did in February, and it just happened to be on the 3rd. So
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm so bad with dates and like remembering that kind of thing. But when you were like, oh, now it's March 3rd, we did it February 3rd, I was like, oh, that's so funny. That's such a coincidence.
yeah, I guess we'll have to see what's going on April 3rd.
April 3rd, yes.
Kind of do like what I've been doing with the Soap Girls. Once a month, we've actually been doing interviews. And so for them, it's been like they said, it's like a virtual diary. They can kind of see what was going on from
At like different stages, yeah.
Yeah, in their case, it was actually all the way back in October. And so we've been doing them every month, including last month we did one, so it's been 5.
That's
really,
a lot, yeah.
really interesting. But yeah, we can, maybe do that if it's organic or if it's depending on what everyone's got going on or what you have going on to talk about, or if you something you want to update. But I am truly a fan of your music, so I have absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no issue or concern about if we decide to come back on April 3rd or April whatever day.
Awesome, sounds good.
And talk about things. So as I see, so for people that are watching this, I can let you know that after I did the first interview with Sydney, I was kind of like, wow, I liked the first song that I'd heard from the publicist that sent me a press release, and then I kind of realized that the publicist had actually sent me the entire EP in advance, and I just didn't realize it. So I was letting her know I was just being a ding dong. So I've had a chance to listen to all of it. Hopefully you've had a chance to now that it's been out there since Saturday. So it's been less than a week, so it's really fresh.
Yeah.
So I was just listening to it again this morning, and so we're going to kind of do what I would consider a deep dive into each track off of this EP, and
Awesome.
see what you can tell us, Sydney, about what was going on with that song, maybe in your particular part of your life that was the inspiration for it, and then I kind of have some newer things to kind of also talk about, and we'll also show your latest unplugged video for "Let Me Down" during the course of the interview, and kind of go from there. So why did you call it Headspace?
I feel like, it's very funny. My mom actually helped me come up with the title because we were sitting down and I was like, I don't know what to call it. Nothing's coming to my head. And then that's when we said Headspace. A lot of the songs talk about my personal experiences and what I've been through. And each song is about a certain time in my life where I was going through a certain situation and the thoughts that I was thinking and how I felt during that particular time. So we called it Headspace because each song kind of encompasses a time in my life and what I was thinking and what I was going through at the time. So I figured that was a perfect title, and I give my mom credit for the title for sure.
Okay, and is mom watching this right now?
She's not because she's working, but before I came to do this, she was like, oh, I wish I could watch. I'm like, what can't you? She was like, oh, I gotta work. I was like, oh, okay. So she's upstairs working right now.
Okay, well, that's the beauty of it being virtual. She can catch it when she has time.
Exactly.
And so with the 6 songs that are on there, what was actually like the earliest song that ended up on the EP in terms of writing? So like, were you 17 when you wrote, or were you 18 when you wrote all of these?
So Let Me Down is that was a song that we kind of added a little bit later, but I had written that one 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago now. How old am I? 19. I would say, yeah, 3 years ago, which is so crazy. So we wrote that, and that was kind of more like a later addition. But I'm really glad that we added that one, and that that one is one of my favorites. I always say that, but like literally all of them are my favorites. I love them all, and I'm very proud of them all. But most of them I did write when I was like 18, 17, 18. And Let Me Down was the one that I wrote when I was 16.
Okay, so if I'm going back on that timeline, if you were 16 when you wrote "Let Me Down," and we kind of talked about this last time about the inspiration for the lyrics, but what about like your general circle of friends? Even though that was a few years ago, so obviously we weren't in the pandemic or any of this stuff wasn't going on.
Yeah.
Are your circle of friends like aware that you do music? Are they also musicians, or they just kind of think it's fun that you're into this stuff? Or
Yeah, a lot of my friends, I feel like now that I'm out of high school, for me, my schedule's always really busy, especially now with music and even so in the pandemic. So I feel like I don't keep in touch with a lot of people. But in high school, everybody knew that I did music, and I wanted to pursue it, and that it was a passion of mine. And I had tried out for American Idol while I was in high school, so a lot of people knew about that. It's definitely not something that I kept private, just because it is such a huge part of my life, and I feel like a lot of people knew that that was what I wanted to do. A lot of my friends aren't musicians. I have a few that are, and the friends that I do have that are musicians are much older than me, that I met through, releasing the record and American Idol and stuff like that. But a lot of them knew, that music is what I wanted to do. But I feel like uh, if you're not like a musician, the appreciation for it, or if you don't have like if you don't have a certain connection with music, the appreciation for it is sometimes lower. So there are some friends who really love what I do and some friends who don't really care. But then the musicians, they obviously care because they appreciate the work and stuff like that. So I feel like I have a very good mix of people who are friends with me through music, and then people who aren't. And it's nice because then I don't have to talk about it all the time or feel like I'm just talking about my music all the time. So it's a good balance.
Okay, that sounds good, and I completely resonate with what you said, because there's people, well, especially in the last 10 years for me, that are also creative types, artistic types. So we can talk shop about all that kind of stuff. But there's some people that, yeah, that's nice, and then they want to talk about sports, they want to talk about something
Exactly.
else.
And it just gives you that nice balance,
Yeah, it's in many cases it's very refreshing, because then I'm not talking for the nth time, like this interview I just did, or this movie I just reviewed, or this thing that's coming to town. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I love doing that too, but if that's all I do, then it's being kind of like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I completely get it. And even telling people like, oh yeah, I'm doing this or I'm doing this. It's like I never want people to feel like I'm saying that it's all about me. But sometimes I really just do want to share with people what I have going on because I'm excited about it. So with the different friends, it definitely keeps me at like a good spot, and I feel like I'm balanced within that.
Yeah, that sounds good. And hi, Captain Blackwood down in Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us as we're talking to Sydney Sherwood here. Why did I say that? I said that like I'm on the radio or something. Oh my gosh. But I think that keyword of balance really kind of comes into play with a lot of things. And we were talking about that pre-show between, music career and personal things and other pursuits that you have. It's like, as long as that balance is there and it feels organic, then you're probably doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just how good you've gotten at this, Captain Blackwood saying. I don't know about that, Captain Blackwood, but I appreciate the comment.
You're doing great, Mark.
Yeah, I'll keep trying to do what I'm doing organically too, even if it's talking like a goofball. But so one thing, when I was listening to the EP again, particularly last night, it starts off with the track "Wolves," and I could totally picture that first 20 seconds of that track, coming over a PA system on the stage, everything's kind of getting set, and then you launch into that song to kick off your concert. What can you tell me about Wolves and how it was written, and also what was going on with the beginning of that production-wise on the recording?
Yeah, so Wolves is definitely my mom's favorite, along with all the aces. She loves them both. And Wolves, when we sat down to write it, one of my favorite artists is Scott Stapp of Creed, and I wanted a song that kind of felt like a Creed song poetically. I feel like he has a lot of different like hidden meanings in his songs, and it's just very poetic. And I wanted Wolves to be that kind of song. And when we sat down to write it, it happened very naturally. And Brian Craddock, he sent me like a chorus, and he's like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "I love it." And then we built around it, and I did like the rough vocals for it. And then he's like, "I really think we should do this like really cool vocal part in the beginning." And I was like, "I don't really know what it's going to look like." And he's like, "Just try it." So there was a lot of different parts within that. It doesn't sound like as complicated as it was for me. Like, it was just challenging because I had to memorize like the exact, like the timing perfectly so that like the different clips fit together. And I was like, "I don't know." Like, and he was like, "Just trust me." And we did it. And that song, I mean, that song like blew my mind. not from a vocal standpoint, but from a production standpoint. That it was probably the most challenging for me to record and to, you know, figure out like where my voice was going to sit and what I was going to do on different parts. But I love how that song came out, and it's another one that kind of talks about mental health and anxiety and a certain point in my life where I was, you know, I just kind of laid it all out there and I was like, God, just help me, you know, because I feel like I'm, you know, drowning, and it's like, can you cover me? Can you keep these wolves at bay? You know, like keeping my thoughts from literally driving me crazy and making me unproductive. So that song was a super personal one, but we definitely took inspiration from how Scott Stapp writes, because he's one of my favorite artists, and that's a little bit about that one.
Oh, interesting. I love the, I guess you call it a metaphor of, you know, keeping things at bay, in this case, wolves, but in your case, personally, you had things that you were trying to get through, and keeping that at bay so that you can, become your authentic self again and do what you want to do, instead of drowning in all these other things that are, you know, keeping you from doing that. So that's really interesting. Because I think when, at least for me, when I just see the word wolves, I start thinking, you know, the animal. I start thinking about the woods. I start thinking about that. I don't really think about that, keeping them at bay. And I was just watching Yellowstone on TV, and there's a couple episodes where they have a wolf show up who they're trying to figure out, what's he doing? Is he a threat? Is he not? And then he never does anything. He just kind of is looking, and then he disappears. But the threat was always there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's, if you don't keep things at bay, then it's kind of like, that things can go south pretty quick on you.
Yeah, and you know, with the song, I feel like we wanted this one to be a visual one as well, about almost like, you know, I had like this vision, you know, like the journey in life, and it's like you could take like the narrow path, or you could take the wide open path, and the wide open path is really easy, but the narrow path, you know, like I feel like with me and what I've been through, it's always been the narrow path, you know? So I just wanted to have a song that kind of talked about that, and talked about how life just turns out crazy sometimes, and you know, and what grounded me during that time where I felt like I wasn't going to be able to like see the light at the end. And that song, I mean, the lyrics that we wrote, I love it. And I feel like it's one of those songs that if I didn't share the personal meaning, you know, you might not know what it meant, or what it meant to me personally. And I really like that about it, because I feel like a lot of people can interpret it in different ways. And that's my favorite part about music.
Yeah, very well said. That's true. That it could be interpreted different ways, and it is always. I think we may have talked about this before too, where it's interesting where you know exactly why you wrote something and put something out there, and then someone could, oh, I really like this because I thought about this, and you're like, that's not what I was thinking about, but that's great that that's how it came to you.
Yeah. I love that. That's probably my favorite part. I had somebody ask me about one of my songs from my first EP. And they're like, is that about that? I was like, no, but that's really cool that, you know, you associated it with that, and like it meant something personally to you, you know? And that, like I said, that's my favorite part, is seeing how different people react to the music and how they interpret it themselves.
Yeah. So if we just go right down through the track listing, we kind of talked about Let Me Down, but and you've mentioned it before, but for those that haven't seen the previous interview, what can you tell people about Let Me Down?
So Let Me Down, I wrote about 3 years ago with one of my favorite songwriters, Joe Makowiecki, who he's an amazing musician, and he's local to New Jersey as well. And I wrote it after I had gotten over feelings that I had for someone at the time. And that song was kind of my revelation and my awakening to the fact that I deserved more, and I deserved somebody that was going to put in 100%, you know, and not just like a half-assed kind of thing. You know, I wanted it to be a, you know, a joint effort. And I realized, like, you know, this person is constantly letting me down, like the song says, and how I wasn't going to stand for that, and that I knew better, and that it was time to move on. And that was definitely the song that I moved on from that person. And that song, you know, I always say I try not to write too much about guys, just because I feel like there's so much more in life to write about. But that song, I really love how it came out, and I love the stripped down version that we did, and it was a really personal one for me, but also it was a time in my life where I grew a lot, you know, and I feel like I really matured as a person. So Yeah, I love that song again. And the acoustic version was also one of my favorite things that I've done so far, and that's a little bit about Let Me Down.
Okay, and we're gonna watch the acoustic version in a little bit here of "Let Me Down," but I'm also curious that I know you've mentioned that with the first EP it was much more like singer-songwriter kind of a thing, and then you kind of felt like you really found your home with this EP of Headspace,
Yeah.
more of an alternative rock kind of a sound. Do you hear the like sprinkling of like Americana / country in your music at all?
Yeah, it's very funny. This is something that Brian and I were talking about, because a lot of people who have been reviewing it keep saying country, and I'm like, where? You know, I'm literally from New Jersey, originally from New York, and I'm just like, okay, I just don't get it. And then, you know, I think where my voice sits, register wise, and my sound, I feel like it can go very bluesy. So I think that's what people are saying, country, and more of that like Americana thing. And literally everybody has been saying country, and I'm like, that's so like that was not the intent, you know. But a lot of people are like, oh, country rock, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, like I would have never thought that, because personally I didn't hear it, but it's been really interesting to see how people are perceiving it, and like what it sounds like to them. And I can definitely, like, when I go back, I can hear it, like when people will say things, or if I'll get a review on a certain song. But I feel like we definitely went more bluesy with some tracks too. So I feel like that's where that country kind of comes into play.
Okay, yeah, because I'm kind of guilty of the same thing. That when I heard it, it wasn't country as a country song, but there's definitely a sprinkling of that kind of vibe to it at times.
Yeah.
And for me, even some of it came from the production side of it, in terms of like the guitar tone, not just the acoustic, but when I hear like a certain type of what you can call like an airy electric guitar tone, I start associating with a certain type of Fender amp or a certain type of guitar, and I start thinking, that's typically what I would see from a country artist or a backing band in a country artist. And even on the unplugged one again that we're going to show in a few minutes, your guitar player I forget what that instrument's called, but he's using that thing that creates. I associate it with country music when he's doing this thing.
Like the slide. I forgot what it's called too. I wish I could be like a good musician and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is, but I don't remember. It's a strange name. But I can't remember. It was really cool though. I was like, what is that? And then when he was playing it, I was like, oh, that sounds great. But yeah, you know, it is interesting. Like you say, because country was not the intent, but I could see it. Like when I go back and listen to what people say, I could definitely see it for sure.
Okay, all right, and we'll go right to the next song, which is "Creep" on the EP, and that's the song that I actually heard the first time I ever heard anything from you. And for me, even though I love all the songs that are on this EP, that one still stands out to me, and it probably always will. I don't know if it's just because it's the first thing I heard, or because it resonates with me personally. But for people that again haven't heard this or lyric video, what can you tell them about "Creep"?
So I wrote Creep before the pandemic happened, a month before the pandemic. And I was in Nashville at the time, and I went into the studio and I was like, you know, I really don't want to write a song about anxiety. And then this song came out, and this song is basically all about my experience with anxiety and what it's like to have a panic attack, and some of those personal things that I went through, like personal details within my experience. And I wanted the song to serve as a visual aid for people who may not understand what it's like, because a lot of people, in my experience, would just kind of say, forget about it, just be positive, don't worry, like it'll be fine. And it's really hard to tell somebody that who's really wrestling with those thoughts in their own head. And, you know, the same mind that thinks beautiful things can also think really negative things. So I wanted the song to kind of represent those feelings, and I also wanted the song to serve as that visual aid for people who may not understand. And that song is definitely probably my favorite that I've ever released, and seeing the feedback from that song and how it touched people who have been through the same thing, or maybe haven't even been through the same thing, but it touched them in a different way, was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's as we talked about the first time we met a month ago. Please forgive me. I keep looking up because I have vaulted windows, and I see my landlord doing something out there. So every now and then I see this shadow. I'm like, what is that up there? But that song for me definitely resonated. And we've talked about this, that I've struggled with my own personal demons at times. And plus, what's nice is that the video is a lyric video, so people can see the lyrics as the song's playing and go, "Oh God, this is exactly something that I can relate to, and something that I'm dealing with either in the past or even now." And I think again, anyone that's ever dealt with those issues, as soon as you hear and or see that video, you'll be like, "Yeah, I totally get it." Versus someone who hasn't, who, yeah, their heart might be in the right place, and many times it is, but it's just like, yeah,
it doesn't make that person feel any better, unfortunately, you know.
Right.
It's a tough thing, you know, when you're battling those thoughts in your own mind, and you know, when other people try and tell you things, it is usually meant to be helpful, but normally it doesn't work, you know.
Yeah, it's usually like, you know, your best thing to help me is just not to say anything right now.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when you can start saying things like that to me, but right now I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And let's move right into song number 4, which is Born to Roll. And you know what I just kind of realized? Here's my weird, curious mind. All of these songs are either 1, 2, or 3 words. There's nothing beyond 4 or 5. Was that on purpose?
I don't think it was. I think that when we were just going through the songs and I feel like with this record, the names came super organically. Like, we didn't say we want a song with this name. Like, we would just write and then kind of find that name within the song, which I thought was pretty cool. So there was no like, okay, we're going to keep it within 1 to 3 words. It just kind of happened organically.
Okay. All right. And so, yeah, what can you tell me about Born to Roll?
Yeah, Born to Roll. I loved recording that one, and I was actually away on vacation when we wrote that, and it was like pouring outside, and I was sitting outside like under this like little balcony or whatever where the rain wasn't hitting me, but I'll always remember like the experience of writing that because it was this huge storm, and we wrote it over a few hours, and I wanted a song that was about like a mental state and coming out of that mental state and getting up and being productive. And it's funny that it was raining that day, because I feel like on days that are super gray or dark, or even in the winter when it's super cold, it's kind of hard to force yourself to get up and do things. And that could be for people who don't have anxiety or depression, and that can also be for people who do, you know. And it could be a beautifully sunny day, but a person who's experiencing those issues has that trouble getting up and getting moving. So that song was basically about when I decided I'm not going to wallow in this self-pity anymore, and I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to try and make myself better and work hard to make my mental health a top priority and to push past the negative thoughts. And I wanted something that wasn't going to be depressing or sad. I wanted something that people could really, you know, rock out to, and it could be an anthem for somebody, but still have that deep meaning behind it.
That's awesome. And again, I can relate to the type of situations and things that you talk about, and I guess particularly in this song, because it doesn't, even like right now, I mentioned earlier in my introduction, you know, it's really sunny today here in Seattle, and it feels a little bit like spring. And depending on what you're wrestling with as a person, that may not make one bit of difference. You might just be like completely still in bed, or just not even out of your, you know, your sleepwear or whatever it is that is kind of keeping you down. And I've talked with actually another guest about everyone's been a victim of something. It doesn't have to be anxiety, depression. It could be from identity theft. It could be that your car got broken into. It could be any kind of. But the difference becomes, it's fine to express those feelings and feel that kind of way, but do you stay that? Do you just stay down like that, or do you find a way to kind of get yourself out of that feeling and start moving forward? That's the difference. And some people are victims their entire lives because they choose to be that way. Other people say, F it, basically. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm going to figure out a way to rise above it and do what I want to do and move forward and start feeling, you know, better about things. And so that's great that you know, you wrote a song that's really about that challenge of like picking yourself back up and trying to move forward from things and not just staying down there in that dark black hole.
Yeah, and exactly what you said was the whole reason behind the song. Like, literally, you hit the nail on the head explaining what you explained. That was what we were going for. And again, you know, I love it. And all these songs have been great to record and such a fun experience. And like doing it from my own home was pretty cool too. So I love each one dearly. But this one has to be my favorite right now. I would say is Born to Roll.
So if I ask you at the end of this interview, then you might have a new favorite.
Yeah, probably, because it changes all the time. I'm like, you know what? Wolves is my favorite today. All the Aces is my favorite today. I always switch. So whenever I say it's my favorite, it's like I can pick a million different favorites. But Born to Roll has been my favorite for like the past week. Since the record's been out, or a little bit less than a week.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's just like I think for any artist when they put out an album of any length, that it's like trying to pick your favorite kid. I mean, they just can't do it.
Yeah.
And if they can, then there's something wrong with some of the songs on there.
Exactly. You're like, oh, I really didn't like that one, or even if like it doesn't sit with you, and you're like, there was one song on my last record that I don't particularly love, but when I played it for everybody in the studio, everybody was crying, and it was like a bunch of grown men, and I was like, okay, well, if this moves them so much, then I was like, I guess I have to put this one out. And that one wasn't my favorite, but once we went through it and the production, I wound up loving it. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, that wasn't really my favorite song that I've ever written, and that was Man Up Above on my last record. But when I saw the reaction, I was like, okay, like people, and they were like, you have to do this one, you have to do it, if it made us cry, you have to do it. I was like, okay. So I feel like it's where the song sits within you, and like you said, if you're really like, oh, I hate that song, then like probably shouldn't have recorded it, or maybe it just didn't turn out the way you wanted. But I think it's a good thing when you can say that you can't pick a favorite and that you love the whole body of work,
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that should be the case for every musical artist when they're putting a new product out, that you feel good about every song, and for different reasons in many cases. And as we just talked about, it's going to change depending on the day of the week and how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this is my new favorite song. But yeah, if you have one that you keep going back to, it's like, man, I still don't, that one's not working for me. It's like, yeah, what happened? It was in the production side of it, or just like flat out, you just kind of got influenced into putting something out that you really didn't think you should have put out. Maybe at that time, maybe its purpose was to be put out 5 years from now, and maybe it was going to fit better, but who knows?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's move right on to song number 5, Horizon's Edge. And what's the title about?
So that song is a really personal one for me. I lost my grandfather during the pandemic in April, so almost a year. I can't even believe it's been a year. He had dementia and Parkinson's, so I kind of felt like I lost him a few years before, because when somebody goes through something like that, and he was really in like the final stages where he didn't really recognize us anymore, but he knew that we loved him, and he knew that we were his family, even if he didn't recognize us per se. And that song, I wrote with Brian a few days after he passed. And Horizon's Edge, my grandpa, he was in the Coast Guard. So the song, and he drove a boat, and going to Lake George was our favorite thing as a family. And I always remember my boat rides with him, and the song is basically all about that. And Horizon's Edge, we'll meet again on the Horizon's Edge. Just, I wanted something that was just super personally meaningful, and that really encompassed like that journey, that he went on through what he was going through, and our time together, and the time that we spent. And that one was a super personal one. And it's funny because sometimes if it's something so raw and new, like it was literally, we wrote it a few days after he passed, maybe even been the day after. And I was like, am I going to be, strong enough to even write that? And I really think that God gave me the strength to get through the writing session. And that song, I mean, I love what Brian did on the production end of that, and how it feels like it almost feels like I don't even know, like it's like a symphony, it was that song is like an experience for me every time I listen to it. And I love how that one turned out. And I feel like, my grandpa's proud, and that was the best way I could have honored him, was, write a song for him.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and sorry for your loss. And
thank you.
I can kind of relate, because my mom's father, when he passed, he was sick for a while, so it was kind of like we knew it was going to be coming, but then even when it actually comes, it still hits you like a ton of bricks.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes some time to get through and understanding. But I have kind of the same types of things that I remember. the memories I have of him. And he used to be a barber down in the International District, so I remember going to get haircuts every 4 to 6 weeks, which is something I can't relate to now, but back then we used to get haircuts when I had hair, and going to lunch and all that kind of stuff. So him taking us shopping and just being the grandpa and buying us gifts, and me bugging him for like anytime I saw him, I was like, can we go to Fred Meyer? Can we go here? And just go buy something. Just being the snot nosed kid that I was, trying to get gifts out of grandpa, but he almost always would do that, and I just have really fond memories of him. So it's beautiful when you can encapsulate that into a song, because that song will be there forever. And like we were talking about, you could have things where it's who knows how someone else can resonate with it. Someone else might take some other kind of meaning from it that's really personal to them, and then it's even more beautiful than you imagined.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see the reviews from that song. Like if I've gotten album reviews, and everybody seems to be moved by it, but some people don't even know why, So and that's like really cool, is like, nobody would know what it's about. I mean, there are the personal details that I put in there, like there's something in the song about drifting towards the rocks, and the moment that we knew like my grandpa's mental state was declining, he was a captain of a ship, so for him to forget the rules of the water, when we were on the lake and steering too close to the left where the rocks were, we were like, that's when I knew that things were starting to get worse. So the reason why I bring that up is because there are such personal things in that song, but people are still moved by it, even if they don't know what the story is behind it. And I think that is like the most beautiful part, that it touches people, even if they don't know the real meaning behind it.
Yeah, no, again, something about that is resonating with them. It could just be the tone of it, could be your voice. It could be.
Oh, sorry, Siri is going off of my Apple Watch. That was strange.
No problem.
It's gonna keep going. Okay.
And
now we can return.
And let me quickly say hi to, let's see, Lori's joining us from Facebook. Mariah Belgrade's joining us from Facebook, and Marilyn on Facebook. So thank you for joining us and watching this interview with Sydney. But yeah, like we've been talking about, I think there's something about your music then that is resonating with people, because sometimes it's something they don't know the details and they don't know the story necessarily behind it, but it's like, boy, I really like this song and it's making me feel a certain way. And like you were saying on your first release, that if you have a room of grown men crying about something, it's connecting through the heart.
Yeah, and that's what I try and do. I feel like for me, it's about writing things about my life, but that are also super meaningful and could be meaningful to other people. I feel like I don't get the satisfaction of writing a song that I don't connect to, and that maybe other people won't connect to, because I feel like there are some songs, especially on the radio today, where you're just like, how can people connect, and how can people really feel that emotion? And I feel like I try and make sure that is my primary goal, is making sure that I can connect to it, because I know if I believe in it and if I feel it, then other people will,
Stay with that. that is a really good way to approach your music moving forward with anything else that you do. Even if you do like a complete style change, if it's something where it connects with you, there's a good chance it's going to connect with somebody else, versus it being like superfluous, kind of fluffy, whatever kind of thing. And you're like, man, I'm not really liking this, but the producer said I should do it, and I think it's going to be a big hit or whatever. It's like, if you're not feeling it, then there's a real good chance other people aren't going to feel it.
Exactly.
So, and then All the Aces rounds out the EP. So, and you mentioned that's one of your mom's favorites as well. So,
yes.
What's going on with this particular song?
So All the Aces is just, it's more of a general thing, but it's definitely something that I feel like everybody's experienced, and that I've experienced as well. Is just like somebody bringing you down, or somebody harming you, or doing something wrong to you. And you just being like, you know what, I'm going to take the high road. And the song says, can't wait to see the look on your face when you notice I'm holding all of the aces. So it's like, you can harm me and you can belittle me and you can do these things to me, but in the end, who's going to be the one who comes out on top, and who's going to be stronger by taking the high road or by standing up for themselves? And that's what that song is all about, is just, somebody who wants to bring you down, but you know, you're like, okay, you know, it's almost like a bully, you know. You see people or famous actors and musicians who are like bullied as a kid, and then when they make it in the music industry or in the film industry, you know, then those people come crawling back, and it's like look where I am now, you know, and like now you want to be nice to me, and it's like that kind of thing, you know, where somebody is just putting you down, and then later in life you're like, okay, you know what, I'm going to be something, and because you chose to be hateful and bully, you know, you're not.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting story behind those lyrics, because here we go again. I can relate to what you're talking about, and I'm not going to name names, but just over a year ago, there was a film community, shall we say, that was initially reluctant to have me review any of their material, and I was like, okay, you know, that's fine if you don't want me to do that. And then they started getting really pointed about why. And so I'm like, okay, I took that a little personally. And
Yeah.
me being me, organically, I started reviewing films last year. Not because I was trying to, you know, spite them, but it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And then here they are a year later coming back saying, wanting to know if I've improved. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm now writing for 16 film companies. I've done 82 film reviews last year, and you can go take a hike.
You're like, boom, take that. Yeah, literally.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but it's like, you know what, you treated me like crap, and
Yeah.
I will never forget that. So I try to really work with the good people. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt initially, and if we can move from that, great. But if your first thing to me is to be negative and derogatory and basically condescending to me, I don't have time for you. And especially when things start to move in my direction that somehow you think you can be a part of now. It's like,
yeah.
nah.
Yeah. I feel that, you know, and it's interesting, like even doing music, and like when people see like you're doing cool things, it's like they'll post about it like they're your best friend. And I'm like, wait, but like you literally don't even like me, or you talk about me, or you know, just like those things. And I feel like that everybody at some point has experienced that in any capacity, you know. And yours was with film, mine was with music, and other things that I've dealt with. So yeah, I love that one because it's just a really like, I don't know, I feel like it's just like a badass kind of song, you know, like the vibe is really strong, and I wanted people to just again like have that anthem, you know, of like, you could put me down, but I'm gonna get back up type thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like bring it.
Yeah.
And for me, that kind of thing, yeah, it fuels my fire to a certain degree, but it's also a really good reminder of, again, there's a lot of great people out there to work with. And I continue to try to remind myself, like, hey, keep supporting the good people, keep trying to do what you can to get the word out about them. Even again, in my introduction that I just did today, the new video, there's clips from everybody from the last 2 months. You're actually part of that introduction. I want people to know who those artists are if they don't know, because they're people that I believe in, people that I support. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite honestly, there's been a few that will probably never be in that introduction because I don't necessarily, doesn't mean that they're bad people, but I don't feel that way. I'm kind of in the middle on some people that I've had the time to talk with. And that's just kind of the way it is. So there's always going to be, especially independent artists, and I've talked about that too, people that are doing it on their own, doing everything that they can to make it happen. Then if anything that I can do to help promote them, then, you know, I'm all for it. So this is going to be a great time, I think, Sydney, to play your unplugged video of Let Me Down. So
awesome.
For people, if you haven't had a chance to see it, it is on YouTube. And what can you tell people about it before we roll it?
So the video, it was a lot of fun to rehearse and then record. And I did it with my producer here in New Jersey, Ron, and then his friend Andy, who's also a good friend of mine that I met through him. And when we sat down, you know, to figure out how we were going to do the song and what it was going to look like, I said I really wanted it to resemble what I originally, like how I originally wrote it, and just me like kind of sitting in my bedroom playing the song originally 3 years ago. And I love how it turned out. And my friends, Chris and Connor of the Lampshade Sessions, they're both amazing and from New Jersey. Chris is an amazing photographer, and Connor is a musician, producer, and Chris is also a musician as well. And I asked them, I was like, can I come in and do a lampshade session? They were like, yeah, let's do it. And I love how it came out. And yeah, I'm so thankful, and I'm so thankful that I have such awesome people to work with, and they're like my core team, and I'm very thankful for them. So I'm excited for people to see it who haven't seen it because I love it.
All right, folks. So let me get this set up, and we'll watch this, and then we'll come back and talk to Sydney further about some future things that are coming up.
One, two, three, four. These days I'm not feeling right. How could I be so blind to all the things you did, so inconsiderate. You pulled the wool over my eyes. Now I'm just because you and you and you, I gave you every chance. You threw my heart around. I only picked you up, and you only let me down. You let me down. I wish you could see how selfish you can be, and how it makes me feel. And I wish the person that you were in my mind lined up with who you are for me. But now you'll never change.
And we're back. Beautiful version of that song.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there is that instrument that.
I literally don't remember what it's called. It's gonna drive me crazy because I'm trying to think of it. I know it has like a different name. And my producer Ron said it a million times, but it's just not coming to me right now.
One thing I love about unplugged versions of from any artist is that it really kind of showcases their talent, or sometimes their lack of talent, depending on what in the studio. So I think that's one thing where I can really see it stripped down and hear everything, hear the nuances of your voice and the lyrics behind it. And I'm just curious, do you have any plans? It doesn't through any means, even if it's just something that you do on your own, to do anything else unplugged, even like a version of Creep?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been talking about, and not just unplugged, but like a live version. I think it would be really cool to take Wolves or to take all of the Aces and have it be like a live performance type thing. But Creep for sure, I would love to do more of a stripped down version. That's one of my favorite parts too, is taking a song that, you know, is on the record and it's produced and then stripping it back and then really letting people hear how raw it can be without everything. I love them both ways, you know, like Let Me Down. I mean, I love how it came out on the record, but I also love the stripped down version. And I feel like they always go hand in hand. So I'm definitely going to do that, hopefully soon. I'm thinking about maybe doing like a session with the rest of the songs, some more stripped down and then some more of like a live performance type thing.
Okay, that would be awesome. And if you do something live, do you ever, in the short-term future, see yourself doing a live stream?
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would love to do that. I feel like that's something that I haven't done before. I played shows, but like I haven't like actually, you know, I feel like doing it virtually is a lot different. And I feel like also doing it virtually is a little bit less forgiving, you know, because if you're on stage and you mess up, you just like kind of got to keep rolling, but that the sound is like doctored and everybody's listening to it through headphones. That's always more pressure, but I would love to do that. Yeah, I'm totally open to exploring different things now, especially with the release being finished and what it's going to look like after and my future projects and stuff like that. And that's something I would love to do.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, I was a part of a virtual tour last year, and I actually just saw something today in like a press release where this hybrid thing, which is not foreign to me, where an artist is going to be doing an in-person live concert, but it's also live streamed, so people that aren't there can buy a ticket, and so they've got that.
Yeah, Daughtry's actually doing that. And I just bought my tickets. Yeah, so it's really cool, and I saw what it looks like. It's like it's like a Zoom board, but there are like all these different like squares, and there's hundreds of people like and the band is looking at those hundreds of people. And it's a live stream. I mean, it's a live stream, but it's also a live concert, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's on March 12th. So I'm excited to see that and what it looks like, you know, because that's the first time that they're all going to be together, Brian said, since like before the pandemic. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, the hybrid. I'm seeing Captain Blackwood saying the hybrid approach will be amazing, and it is. And I think, Sydney, what you're talking about with Daughtry, I saw Chloe Lowry do something who has sung with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra and some other folks. And she had this thing where it was through a company, I forget the name of the company, but it had all these screens around the studio that she was performing live in with her band, and she could actually see every person that had bought a ticket on that screen. So it was like that was the virtual audience, but they're actually there as much
listening. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a great idea. Whoever came up with it. I mean, I hope that, you know, obviously we hope that shows come back, you know, sooner rather than later. But whoever came up with that idea, I mean, that's a great way to bring back live music in some kind of capacity rather than it just being a live stream where you hope that people are watching it, you know, and actually having people be a part of the event, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I know she was saying that afterwards it was so interesting because it was virtually interactive because she could talk to the people on each screen individually, and then they came back, and it was just like kind of like some sort of sci-fi trip for her. But it was
I mean, it's crazy how far technology has come, you know, and for us to be able to do that. But you know, I hope there's a lot of things where like technology is like taking over, and I hope that that's never what happens with concerts, because I feel like there's nothing better than actually like being present in the audience and just like singing with everybody, you know, and experiencing the artist in person. So I hope that that never goes away, and I don't think it will, but it's crazy to see how technology is like taking over so many other things, you know? So I'm so looking forward to the moment that I can go and see a live show. I'm just like, that'll be probably the happiest day of my life after the pandemic, you know?
Yeah, you and me both. Being there in person again, and the show that's coming up that I saw was that. So it's going to be like a regular concert. I think it's going to be socially distanced and all that stuff. So there won't be physically people there. This is down in Florida.
Yeah.
But for people like me up here in Seattle, if I want to buy the ticket, they're still going to live stream it at the same time. So it's like they're going to have two different revenue streams going on. In person, like the old school stuff, which I hope it never goes away either. But for those that can't be there, now they've brought in this live stream piece to it. And I think you're going to see a lot of bands
start doing that now. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about like some bands that are in Europe or overseas that can't maybe come over here to tour this year or even maybe next year. This is the only way I'll be able to see them would be at least I have an option.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah. Otherwise I don't get to see anything. And it's like, well, that's no good. And like I think I mentioned too, most likely I'm probably going to try. I don't know who that's going to be, but whenever I get to do my first in-person interview, I'm probably going to try to live stream it at the same time. So that it's automatically up, it's there, it's in real time, and as long as I have a connection of some sort in terms of Wi-Fi or my phone, I can still make it work, and it'll be easier on me. And so it's going to be like, this is a plus of this type of medium that I didn't think about until it's like, well, yeah, why not just do it from the green room or the tour bus or wherever I be. And so it's been kind of crazy that I could literally like interview somebody before the show, and then like the opening band's playing, and I could go back onto YouTube and see my interview that I just did. And they haven't been on stage yet. So, I mean, yeah, that's the kind of area that we're in with technology for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One thing I want to ask you, which I think happens for almost every musical artist, doesn't matter what genre they're in, when they start off, they've kind of written these songs, they put almost like everything they have into their songs. And then if they start to get success, start moving up the ladder, so to speak, then their motivation becomes different because maybe they were in a position that they didn't have any money, or they were, not living in a really a rough situation or whatever it is. And then things start to get good. Maybe some money starts to come in. They start to get comfortable, and they find it hard to find inspiration / motivation for their music moving forward. This is kind of a what if thing for you. What do you think that might be like for you? Let's say like 5 years from now, that if you keep being successful, because I think you will be, and
thank you.
Yeah, it starts becoming it's your full-time gig. It's what you do. You've got your team around you. You're touring. You're putting music out and videos and everything. And what do you think your motivation will be? Because everything you've done so far is so personal to you. Do you think that's going to be the aspect that you keep driving from, like your new life experiences, or do you think it might be something else that motivates you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, with my family, thinking about like what that would look like if it really did turn into something that was a, overly sustainable kind of career, because the music business is so difficult sometimes, and I feel like for me, music is, I had an interview yesterday, and we were just talking about how like music saves people. And I feel like music really saved me, and it's such a part of my life. And my goal with my music has never been to become famous or to make it on the radio, even though that would be very cool. That has never been the intention of my music and what I wanted. What I really, and I feel like it won't change just because of how much music means to me and how much of a like therapeutic kind of thing it is for me, writing songs and putting those emotions into those songs, and the music itself, and how I would play those songs out, and how I interact with people. I just feel like the motivation wouldn't change for me, because I mean, I haven't done anything that would have, made me like sell out, quote unquote, but I feel like it couldn't change because of how much music means to me personally, and how much it's helped me in my life, and how much it is my life, and I don't see myself losing motivation for making music just because, it is such a meaningful thing to me. And it's really what I use as a therapy tool almost. So I don't think it will change. I hope it never changes. And like I said, that's something that my family and I talked about, because you always hear, recording contracts, but what good is a recording contract if as an artist they're not letting you do what you want, you know? And I don't mean that to be like as in like people can direct you and guide you, but if they don't see the vision and if they're like, okay, we want you to go full pop, I'm gonna be like, okay, it's not really what I want, you know? And then you're stuck in a position where you're not even making music that you like. And I feel like that's where the danger lies. And for me, I just feel like I could never be like, let me just completely forsake what I love doing and the style that I like doing and how I sound and how I write to become famous. I don't see that really ever changing because it is so personal to me. And I know that was a very long answer, but I feel like it's like a loaded answer for me because there's so many different like things that I think about when I think about that question and how, you know, I could change, but I don't think I would because of how much music really means to me, you know, and how much it saved me.
Yeah, no, I think you gave a really thought out, personal, transparent answer. And it would be, and the reason I asked that question is because I'm thinking about some bands from the 80s and they're talking about when, they're all living together in some rat infested apartment, and nothing to eat. And then they had $1 million in their bank account and they're like, how do we write the next angsty anthem? So I don't know. Everything's good in my life. I don't know what to do. And they were actually stuck. But then on the flip side of what you just said, I'm thinking about another artist that I've been interviewing. We talked a little bit about them earlier on the Soap Girls, that they were signed to a major label and then it was their songs, but then they're trying to mold them and cookie cutter them and change everything, all that kind of stuff. And they hated it. And so that's when they went fully independent, and they're still independent to this day because it was like, this isn't what we want to be or what we want to do or how we want to be presented. And they've been, entertaining and doing music since they were little kids. So it's just like what you're talking about. It means so much to them, just like it means so much to you and probably a lot of people watching this, including myself, that it's just interesting to see. Some people, it's going to be with them, in this case, music, the rest of their life because it saved them. It means so much to them personally. It's something they carry with them. And then other people, they have almost like the wrong motivation. So maybe it is to be famous, or maybe it is to have, to live comfortably or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. Money's nice, of course. I wouldn't mind some. That's why I always make pitches for PayPal stuff to keep these going. But I think at the end of the day, if you're not proud and feel good about what you're producing as a musician, as an artist, then it just becomes like, why are you even doing it?
Yeah. And I feel like with some people, it becomes like a, like that cash grab. You see a lot of like young actors or actresses or like TikTok stars, and everybody like wants that music career. I think because they know that they have that platform and they know that they can just get that cash really quick. And it may not even like mean anything to them, but their manager says, well, you should do this because it's going to make you millions of dollars. And like you said, money is nice. You can't do anything in life without money, and I just feel like, I would never see myself selling out because why make music if you don't believe in it or if it doesn't mean something to you, because then nobody else is going to even like it. And you might please a certain group of people, but it's not what you want to do, then why do it,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And again, me being the age that I am, I'm just remembering one of the bands that's here locally that became international. And the guitar player was saying the exact same thing because I think an interview was asking them back in the day about, so what's the next album going to be like? Are you going to try to do like another single that was a hit for them? And he's like, no. So that song was something that was very organic at the time. And it was about something that was actually kind of dark. And our next album is going to be whatever we feel feels good to us because we don't want to look back and listen to something, go like, what the hell were we thinking? And so we're going to do what we did. And he was right. They went to a really introspective album, the very next one that they did. And even a lot of fans were kind of turned off by it, but the band loved it. So it's like, that's all that mattered at the end.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap this up, what do you have coming up? Because I know you have something coming up this month that you're going to be doing and flying to or driving to or what have you. And what else is coming up for you?
Yeah, I'm so excited just because I really haven't gone anywhere other than the tri-state area. And it was like a big decision, but I'm heading to Nashville this month. I'm going to be doing a duet with my friend Kazan Lester, who I met on American Idol, actually. He's a really talented country singer. And I wrote this duet with Joe, the guy that I wrote Let Me Down with, and Brian. And it's kind of a cross between country and rock, which he loves rock and country, and I love rock and country. So we're kind of like, meshing the two together, and that'll give more people a reason to say, oh, it sounds country. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. And going in the middle of this month, and that'll, like I said, be the first time that I've really gone anywhere. And we're going to record that and then hopefully do some more writing sessions for my own stuff. And I have a few other things planned. I would love to do a really cool stripped down song that's like produced that way, and that's kind of in the works. And lots of different ideas, and I'm glad that the ideas are flowing, because there are times where I'm feeling like ideas aren't flowing, and that like I'm in a rut, especially with songwriting too. But I feel like I have a lot of things planned, and I'm excited. And the main thing is that I'm really going to try and release music consistently. And we talked about this pre-show, and then in the symposium with Aviv and Mariah, how important that is. As a musician to do that. And I don't want to wait a full year in between projects. I want to keep people engaged and interested. And yeah, so just releasing new music, recording, writing songs, collaborating with other people, hopefully shows soon. And that's pretty much it. But I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm enjoying every second of the process of, after the release and doing stuff like this and meeting new people. It's been awesome. So I'm really grateful.
Sounds awesome. I love the game plan. I'm going to throw out this back out there yet again. Don't forget some sort of merchandise. Even if it's not a physical copy of the Headspace EP, if it's some sort of T-shirt or some other kind of thing that you think is really kind of cool and different to you. I just had a poster show up from one of the artists. I think there's a CD showing up from somebody that I interviewed, and I love supporting artists that way. And I realize, depending on demographics and also money's an issue when it comes to that stuff. But just throwing that out there on the peripheral, don't forget about that aspect, because I think you might be surprised how many people would buy it if it was.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't forget. And after talking with you after our first interview, and then during the symposium, and then a bunch of other people, a lot of people wanted physical copies. So that is something thank you for saying that, because now it just reminded me that is something that we're going to be doing. And that'll probably be out on my website. I don't want to give a date yet, but that is something. CDs, a lot of people, and I thought, just because everything's so digital now, I was like, who's really going to want one? But it turns out a lot of people do want one. So yeah, and then merch for sure. Everything, is just a process, and I'm enjoying, and then expanding, it's just been really cool. And I feel like I've done more than I ever have within these past few months, even though I've literally been home the entire time. But yeah, CDs will be on the way. That is for sure.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. And I can again mention that one of the guests that I talked to, she thought the exact same thing. She's like, who's going to want to buy these? And so
yeah,
she got like a really small run pressed up, and then she ended up like repressing it 5 times because she kept running out of them. And she's like, and she just had no idea, because like for her own personal habits, she doesn't buy stuff like that. She streams everything.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do, and I understand that, or they buy it on Bandcamp or Spotify or something like that. But then she forgot about this other market that's out there that still wants those things, or they want something signed, they want it autographed by you, whatever it is, to have it personalized, so they feel, oh yeah, I've got something tangible. Yeah, we're out here.
That's good. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for taking the time. And it's been always a pleasure talking to you back last month and in the symposium and now. And maybe we were kind of half joking, but maybe we'll get back together again in April and on April 3rd or whatever day that is, and see what's going on. But I truly wish you every success in the world with everything that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I likewise for you too. I mean, it's really nice to know that, you have somebody that like has those intentions of helping artists and promoting them and helping them grow. And I really appreciate everything that you've done for the release and promoting it and just helping me out and giving me direction with the merch and the CDs and stuff. And it means a lot. And thank you for having me always. And let's do it April 3rd. If I'm around, let's friggin' do it. Well, hopefully something will be out by April 3rd. Maybe that duet will be out by then. I don't like to give dates because I always get myself in trouble whenever I give dates, because I'll say, oh yeah, it'll be out, and then like something happens. So yeah, I would love to do it April 3rd if I have something new going on. And really, thank you always. You're great.
Well, thank you, and I'll look on my calendar and see what day of the week April 3rd is. Because off the top of my head, I'm thinking it might be like a Saturday or something, or a Friday. But,
Okay.
we'll figure it out. And even if and you're actually smart not to give a date. Just say it's coming soon. It's coming.
Yeah.
Here. It's coming, because I've been caught in the same trap where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be interviewing so and so next week. It's like, oh no, that turned into a month down the road. It's like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now I just kind of say it in generalities until I actually know it's happening this particular day. So
Yeah.
but no, again, thank you for taking the time, and I'll be watching what you do and great anticipation. And then if we end up coming back together in April on April 3rd or sometime in April, then whether there's something to talk about or not, I think we have things to talk about just in general with what you're doing. And
Yeah, definitely.
letting all your fans and your family, and I see there was a bunch of people here in the chats. All of you, thank you for joining. All the platforms too, from Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube are watching
Awesome.
point during this. So have a good night over there in New Jersey, and stay
Thank you.
safe.
You too.
Thank you, and I'll hopefully talk to you sooner than later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Great talking to you again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.